You're listening to the Big Sci Fi Podcast,
the biggest sci-fi podcast in the galaxy.
You're listening to the Big Sci Fi Podcast, the biggest sci-fi podcast in the galaxy, with Adeena, Brian, Cris, and Steve. We're a part of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, and we're having more fun than ever celebrating our 10th season and 4 years of friendship talking all things science fiction. Calling all sci-fi fans, you're invited to the party. Let's have some fun.
Dear John, what is the most dignified way to recover after making a complete fool of oneself? Asking for, well, quite a few people, actually. Today's episode is going to be a little different. So we asked fans, both in our Facebook group and at a convention recently, to submit their most pressing, most curious, and occasionally most questionable life questions. And we brought in a man uniquely qualified to answer them. Actor, thinker, reader, and yes, Dr. Phlox himself, John Billingsley. And he's here not only to dispense some wisdom, but also to talk about Trek Talks 5, which he's back to help promote, so we'll get into that as well. Welcome tonight to Ask John with John Billingsley, back on the Big Sci Fi Podcast, and also with my co-hosts, Brian, Cris, and Steve. And by the way, side effects of denobulant advice may include clarity, curiosity, and unexpected life choices. How are you today, John?
I'm fabulous. I like the fact that the very first question revolves around the question of dignity, which I personally think one should abandon as soon as one can. It is excessive attachment to dignity that causes much of the problems I think we have. So there you go.
That is,
right off the bat.
That is great. That is an excellent answer to that first question. And that was one that I just made up. I'd like to, though, go ahead and get right into some of the questions that we collected. I was at with our Trek Long Island table at AwesomeCon this past weekend. So several of them we collected right there at the table. And the first one.
Let me first say thank you for having me on.
Sure.
A pleasure to be here. Always a delight to be on the show. And secondarily, for those of you who know Mama Nana, I am the opposite of Mama Nana. I am Papa Satan. Giving you bad advice and ruining your life, but pithily. I can give you the quickest path to perdition imaginable. I say that even as Pastor Brian Donahue is here laughing.
All I can say, John, is this is 3 times a charm, and you are a charm.
All right. Well, bless you.
Aww, that's so sweet. Hey, well, the first question we have was one that was submitted anonymously. And it is, John, what's your go-to "this day sucked" comfort book or show or movie?
Well, all right. This day sucks. To begin with, I'm not entirely sure I'm ever prepared to say this day sucks. Now I'm going to sound a little Pollyanna-ish. There is inevitably something about any day that gives you joy. I think it's more a matter of where you bend your focus. I have a little thing that I kind of call the mirror at the end of the day exercise. When you're brushing your teeth and you look in the mirror, I think you say, not so much, does this day suck, but was I nice today? Was I kind today? Do I feel like I behave like a schmuck to somebody today? Do I think I behave like a jerk today? If I can look myself in the eye and say, bad John, yeah, that's something that I need to kind of course correct about. If it's about this happened, that happened, that's outside of my control. I didn't cause it. It's something that you have to let go of. The universe is full of randomness. So to me, that's the sharpest distinction I can make. In terms of what I will go to if I'm feeling in the least bit down, it will usually be a book, but it's not a specific book. It's whatever I happen to be reading at the time. Sometimes if you end up picking up a book that doesn't really suit your mood, you may find it a bit of a struggle. But generally speaking, I'm going to goddamn pin that book to the mat. So I'll just go after it no matter what it is.
And that's why you have to have a lot of books. You need to have that choice.
If only people could see his background.
Oh yeah, that's one room. No, it's a sickness. I think you have to make peace with your sicknesses too. I could have been a heroin addict, as I often tell my wife. Books are dustier. I suppose it's possible that sometimes my wife thinks, why don't you give it a try? Because at least we can unload a few books. But it has been the great joy of my life being I was brought up by readers, and I find joy in reading than in anything outside of my wife. I'm not saying that just because she's lurking in the back room. I actually mean that.
Yeah.
She is.
I have the same sickness as you with books.
Yeah, and it's just happening.
Yep. Okay, great. Steve, do you want to take your question next? Because, we had some questions too.
Sure. So the question I had for you, John, was, do you recall the very first book you read? And do you remember the book that you read that you said, I'm now a reader? I can tell you what mine are, but I'd like to hear what yours are.
I've never been asked that question. What an excellent question. I don't know if I can.
I win.
The very first book I've read. I will say this. There was a girl in, this certainly wouldn't have been the first book I've read, but in the fourth grade, there was a girl, Barbara, who sat next to me. And if it's possible to be in love in the fourth grade, I was in love with Barbara. And I was in love with Barbara because Barbara loved to read. And I did that. She was the first person I can say outside of my family who I was drawn to because I thought, oh, this reading thing is actually something that can help you meet chicks. Now, Barbara then moved away, and a little did I realize that was probably the zenith of my romantic life for many, many years. But I've often thought, my wife doesn't like me talking about Barbara. I've often thought that there, but for the fates and Barbara's parents moving to Ridgefield, Connecticut, or wherever the fuck they went, that would have been, like I would have been one of those guys. It's like, I met my wife in the fourth grade. We were reading Pippa Longstocking.
Not the case.
Not the case. She moved.
All right. I can tell you, John, that the very first book I ever read was a scholastic school book called Follow My Leader, about a kid who gets blinded playing with fireworks, and he's given a German Shepherd named Leader.
Oh.
That was in like the fifth grade, but it wasn't until the eighth grade that my teacher plopped in front of me, Les Miserables, and said, you have to read this.
Whoa.
And I thought, you have sentenced me to prison. I hate you. And then I started to read the book, and that book made me a reader.
Wow. Now I bet you could search the width and depth of this land and not find somebody else who had a similar story. Eighth grade, Les Miserables. Very, very unusual.
Yeah.
I will also say this. I was a huge comic book fan.
Me too.
And I've always believed that so much about learning to love to read is rooted in encouraging kids to read anything that gives them pleasure. Anything, everything. I'm not a teacher, and far be it from me to ever weigh in on what the challenges of pedagogy are. But if I had a perfect world, reading class would be open the door to a gargantuan library that includes everything under the sun. And I don't care what you read, but for an hour, you're reading. No chin wagging, no homework, no nothing, just read. I do think sometimes what happens as we get educated is that reading becomes a chore and a burden, and it's about tests and exams and come up with the right answer and make a cogent point in conversation. And there are a lot of reasons why kids get turned off to reading, I think, unfortunately, too soon. Nowadays, something like, it's an amazingly small percentage of people who read for pleasure. Most people don't even read 2 books a year, which is just crushing to me.
Yeah, my daughter actually had a teacher, thank goodness, who said, she's in 6th grade, so I think her 4th grade teacher said, I will never send my kids home with homework. They're working all day long, every second of the day. What I want them to do is figure out what books they love, a series, whatever, and read when they're home.
That's heaven.
She just, it was very plain from day one, and my daughter hasn't looked back. It's been fantastic. So
I love hearing that story. I didn't do my homework. Instead, I did just read, and of course, there was hell to pay. But I applaud that.
Yeah.
Probably the math teachers are going, well, but wait a minute. Are there any
So
math teachers out there? I'm sorry. I
you need to read to do a lot of math, and there are a lot of amazing books
Yeah.
about math.
And you could
I
also,
just yes,
for math students, just put them in a room with a whole bunch of numbers. It's like, it's an
that too.
hour and you got all the numbers in the world and you can just, do whatever you want with all these numbers. I would not have entered that room myself, but more power to the people who would.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to go into the next question. This was submitted from Sharon, who's from Farpoint, who, in addition to wanting to know, John, when you're coming back to Farpoint, she also wanted to know.
Isn't Sharon in charge of Farpoint?
Yes.
Then that's up to Sharon, isn't it? Sharon, I'll ask you, when am I coming back to Farpoint?
Get on the telly. Write an email.
Yep.
Have your people contact my people, okay?
I am my people. I am my people. I'm easily found.
Well, the other thing she wanted to know was, what self-care do you recommend for caregivers taking care of family members?
Oh, well, I'm in that situation right now. My wife, who I adore, has a lot on her hands. Our brother-in-law had a massive stroke some years back. We've really had to pitch in a lot to help that family. And then because they're not as available to Bonnie's mother, the care for Bonnie's 92-year-old mother has fallen to her. Boundaries, 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 boundaries. I mean, it's really important that you're very clear on what your boundaries are and that they don't become excessively elastic. Your mental health matters. You cannot go nutso fucko, or you're not going to be able to provide care for anybody. And it's very easy for us to start kind of giving away more of our time, more of our energy, more of our effort. It's got to be all in. You can't say no, la, 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 la. If we lose our capacity to find joy in our lives and mental health in our lives, then we're of no use to anybody. And I think that one of the things that allows us to create boundaries is the "it takes a village" adage. I would not be shy about asking for help. I think that's really one of the hardest things sometimes we have to do as people, is to say, I need help. And there's help out there. There are a lot of people who are willing to pitch in. If you have the means to hire people, hire people. If you don't have the means, friends and family. See if somebody can come in one day a week to do something that your mother, father, whomsoever likes doing, and let that be a linchpin of the schedule that you can count on, and you can build your own space, free space, you space around it. Specificity, I think, is really important, so it doesn't become too vague. The more clear you are about what your boundaries are and how that translates into a calendar, the easier it is to uphold them.
That's great. And I thought, knowing a little bit about
And cocaine. Cocaine. I should lead with that. I always, forget that is, of course, this is why I'm not This is why I'm
No, that's great. That's great. But let's pause here for a second, because you are not here just to talk about, some we'll say excellent life advice. We're also here to help you promote Trek Talks 5, which is an incredible event. So for people who may not know, do you want to just give an overview of what Trek Talks is?
Yes, I'll give you the quick spiel, which is this. Trek Talks is an 8-hour gabathon with a dozen or so amazing Star Trek panels featuring some of Star Trek's most beloved celebrities, as well as behind-the-scenes heroes. It takes place on the 28th this month, which is Saturday, 28th of March, from 10 in the morning to 6 p.m. on YouTube. And it is essentially a fundraiser, a Jerry Lewis-esque telethon to raise money for an organization called Hollywood Food Coalition, which I've been working with and for about a decade here in Los Angeles. That organization is almost 40 years of age, and it does a ton of interesting things to help bring food and safety and security and comfort and nourishment of all kinds to people in need all through the Southland. We rescue about 3 million pounds of food a year and share it with about 100 other social service organizations to augment and buttress their meal programs. So imagine a shelter for battered women that does great work but doesn't necessarily provide great food. We try and fill in the gaps. As well, we provide a hot, nourishing meal for all comers 7 nights a week to our own clientele. We do a ton of stuff. We're going to have some amazing guests, and I bet you're going to ask me a question later on about who they are. So I'll just say, stick around and watch this, and I'll tell you about some of the amazing panels we've got coming up. But I'll lead with this. Our star attraction this year is a one-on-one interview with the great Paul Giamatti.
All right.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, he was supposed to be at AwesomeCon this past weekend in DC, and unfortunately had to cancel last minute. I think they were still filming. He couldn't make it. I know some people who were disappointed, but yeah, everyone's been real happy with his performance in Starfleet Academy.
We're
thrilled. If it means he couldn't come because he's doing more Academy, then that's good.
We were
That's what I want.
thrilled to get him, as well as many other marvelous people. I'll tell you a bit more about it. Go on.
Excellent.
All right. For our next question, this one is submitted anonymously. How would you recommend doing Pilates in a small apartment?
Carefully?
Pilates.
Carefully, yes. That would be
That's
good.
a form of exercise, I believe. I've read about such things.
I was going to say, how familiar are you with Pilates yourself?
Yes, my wife studied Pilates for a while. I don't have an answer to that question. I know you know the measurements of your apartment better than I. You know what you can and cannot achieve. I'm afraid that's one of those questions that is beyond my scope or ken. My wife took Pilates, and we were gifted one of those benches, those gargantuan benches they use, which now serves as a wonderful place for me to lay clothing upon. The cats to sleep on. Very little Pilates is done on that bench. In fact, whoever's asking this question, if they would like a gargantuan Pilates bench, you could actually deal with aspects of how space-time can warp, because I can give you a bench bigger than your apartment. You can see if you can fit it in. I'm sure Einstein would have something to say about that, but
I have a similar relationship with the treadmill too. Clothes hang on it more than my body walks upon it.
Yes.
Well, that was I was going to say. How many books are on your Pilates bench?
About 150.
Okay.
No,
I remember
that you will go.
I remember the day. No, that's just happens to be a couple of random stacks. I remember the day I colonized beneath the Pilates bench, and then the day that I colonized portions of the Pilates bench. It's where I film auditions, so the entire bench can't be taken over, but a chunk of it, yes, indeed, is stacked with books.
Are they random, or are your books somewhat organized?
Years and years and years ago, there was a methodology. The fiction was alphabetized. History was grouped by subject. I had Americana. I had American presidents. I actually was quite specific with. I have a lot of history and a lot of sociology and psychology and philosophy, yada yada. The word I would use now to describe it is clusterfuck.
Love it.
I don't know if that's a system or a way of life. I'm pretty sure I could lay my hand on almost anything, except that much of it is almost inaccessible, so it's easier for me to just go get another copy of it.
Awesome.
I don't know why.
Nice.
I love that.
I don't know. I don't know how this happened. I should have known. My mother was a pack rat, and you're growing up and you think, I'm never going to be like that, and now here I am, just as many old copies of the New York Times book review as my mother had when she died.
Oh, no.
And I thought when she died, it was like, what were you thinking? You have copies of the New York Times book review going back 20 years. Why didn't you? And now, of course, I think, oh, cool. I wish I'd saved those.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Well, so our next question is not anonymous. You've been a lot of places, but where would you go, or where would you want to go if money or time was not an issue? And this one was submitted by our friend Paul Adams.
Oh, well, that's a good one, too. I think there are two categories. There's a category of places I've been that I'd like to go back to, and then there's a category of places I've never been that I know I want to go to. In the latter category, Copenhagen.
Oh, yeah.
And generally up into Norway and the fjords. And sort of as an adjunct to that, those wonderful river cruises that go to Europe. I've always wanted to do one of those. Places I've been to that I'd like to go back to, I'd love to go back to Barcelona and Spain generally. I haven't been in years. And I don't know that I could stand this because it had such a specific meaningfulness to me. When I was 20, I went to Venice for the carnival.
Oh, Venice.
Like the Mardi Gras we have in New Orleans.
Mhm.
I'd kind of like to do that again, although I'm sure it'd be a very different experience. In fact, I couldn't do what I did when I was 20 with the all-night cavorting in the Campanile and the general licentiousness. And if my wife was there, there'd be very little licentiousness and very little cavorting. But I would still like to do that one more time before it sinks. Poor Venice.
So
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I
I'm
was
sorry.
gonna say, well, part of Paul's question, it was not just like if money is no issue, but if time was no issue. So I'm wondering if maybe like how long would you want to spend? Would you want to spend like a summer in one of these places
Oh,
or a
well,
year in one of
boy.
these places?
Oh, if time was no issue. Oh, Paul, please. Make time no issue. Time is such an issue.
Mhm.
I would love to spend, I mean, that would really be a dream, is to be able to spend a month here and a month there and, a month in New Hebrides or go to Scotland and actually bop around. I'd love to take the train across Canada. I'd love to spend a month in Vietnam. I think a month is a great amount of time. It's your cats will still remember you when you get back and you won't feel like an absolute heel for abandoning them.
As long as someone feeds them.
Well, if you own cats, that is not the case. As much as one would like to think that it's as easy as that, the reality is when you get home from a trip, your cats are giving you a serious stink eye. It's like, yeah, okay, somebody fed me, but nobody petted me, or at least they didn't pet me in a way that I like being petted, and it's your fault.
Yep. But the other thing is
That
when
is
and
true.
this bothers me every time I leave the house. Your cats have no idea when you're coming back. No idea. You could be gone for the day. You could be going to work.
Well, you don't leave
or
a
you could be
note
gone
for
for the
them.
weekend.
I leave a note for my cats. I give them very clear directions on when I'm expected to return, and I'll remind them what they can and cannot do. I'm surprised you don't do that.
I
Adeena.
tell them. I don't know if they're listening, but I always tell them. I tell them I'm just going to work or I'm just going to the
My
store or I'm
cats,
going away for the weekend.
my cats are readers. It's just that was one of the
Oh,
things.
I guess I failed to teach my cats to read.
I've got an outdoor cat named Lizzie that adopted our family, and would you believe it? She follows us on our neighborhood walks.
I totally believe it.
She follows
That sounds right.
The neighborhood cannot believe it. And every time we get people, that is so adorable. And she's terrorizing some of our other neighbors' cats along the way. But she will follow behind us the whole time and stay right with us most of the time. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I've had cats my whole life. My mother adopted two kitties when I was, I don't know, maybe 8 years old, and since then, it's just coincidence that every girlfriend I've ever had, my first wife, Bonnie, cats. So anybody who doesn't love cats, it's like you haven't had them,
Okay, well, so then I have an ad hoc question that I'm going to insert. This is not a pre-planned, pre-written question. I have two cats. We've been talking about getting a third.
Ooh.
How many until I'm actually a crazy cat lady?
14?
Too late.
Here's the thing, Adeena, you're already a crazy lady on so many other fronts. At this juncture, I don't think it really would matter so much. It would be like, crazy book lady, crazy science lady, crazy fingernail, crazy purple hair lady, crazy this lady, crazy. So crazy cat lady, it's like, why not?
That's fair. My kids will be very happy to hear that because they're the ones pressuring for another cat.
Yeah. How old are your cats?
4 years old. They're sisters, litter mates. They're 4 years old.
Yeah. I mean, the only question is whether or not, your cats could stomach a new addition.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
For a while,
Yeah, how would you find that out? I'd be curious.
I think you foster.
Yeah.
I think you foster a cat and you kind of find out whether your cats are inclined to be mellow towards a new arrival. And even if you don't end up keeping that foster, at least it gives you a sense of temperamentally whether or not they're going to be mellow. They have now all these kind of like, which I do not recommend, except I know people who've used them successfully, kind of kitty, like not tranquilizers, but like, if it's a spray, it's just something that kind of mellows the cats out. So they're a little less, and that might be a way to help if you bring in a foster to kind of recognize you might need to use a little bit of that out of the gate.
Yeah. There are a couple neighborhood cats And when they're because my cats are both indoor cats, and when they're at the door, my cats go crazy. My cats are some combination of either terrified or want to attack. But a couple months ago, there was an elderly cat on our doorstep, and we didn't know whose cat this was. So, and it was 20 degrees outside. We actually wound up bringing the cat inside the house because we didn't know what to do. And in that moment, I thought we were adopting another cat. And I was very concerned with how our cats were going to react. But I think they sensed the age of the cat and that the cat was like, seriously, this is an elderly cat. They sniffed her when we brought her in the house, and then they just walked away. They completely ignored her.
Well,
And then we figured out
interesting.
whose neighbor it was. But after that, ever since then, my kids are like, we could get another cat.
Interesting. Well, the other
Yeah.
thing I've always recommended is bring in a baby for a couple of weeks, and the cats will be so freaked out they then replace the baby with another cat. And people.
I'm not bringing in another baby. I'm
then
done
the
with
cats
that.
will go like, "Oh man, we thought we were going to have a baby, and it's just another cat." Whoosh, and problems.
Hey, let's see. Okay, so the next question that we had that was also submitted anonymously. People were very anonymous this weekend. I don't know why.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I bring
don't
out the
know.
anonymity.
I don't
in people.
know.
I don't know why.
And this again, the questions range from, all spectrum of kinds of questions. So this person was really interested in how you would answer this one.
Uh-oh.
Why do we drive on a parkway but park on a driveway?
Before you answer that, John, I believe that was submitted by a Jerry Seinfeld, because it sounds like a very Seinfeld kind of a thing.
Yeah, I could hear that. I just I'm going to, you know what? That's going to be the official story. Jerry Seinfeld submitted this. He loves our podcast.
He is a listener.
That's his question.
Yes, the vagaries of the English language are many and manifold. I always thought St. John was like, what? St. John. If you meet a Brit and it's St. John. How did you come by St. John? How did it become St. John? How did Worcestershire sauce become Worcestershire sauce when it's Worcestershire? What? What's up with that? It drove George Bernard Shaw crazy. He actually tried to come up with an alternative form of spelling that would make more sense, and it drove him mad, and so he died at age 102.
Pretty sure he was going to die anyway.
Otherwise, he would have lived to a ripe old age.
Okay. So we're going to move on. So let's talk a little bit more about Trek Talks 5. And I'd love to hear about some more of the panels and some more of the guests that are going to be on.
All right. I'm going to talk about some of the guests. So, and this is not in any particular order. We have encouraged Gates McFadden and Tawny Newsom to just have a wild and woolly conversation about anything they want. We're going to have some panels that are rooted in famous episodes. Voyager's Critical Care with Bob Picardo, Ken Biller, and Dr. Elizabeth Hudson. We're going to have a Deep Space Nine Trials and Tribulations episode.
Oh, very good.
Celebration with Terry Farrell, Ira Stephen Bear, and Dan Curry. We're going to have 3 Starfleet Academy cadets. We're going to have George Hawkins, Kareem Diane, and Karis Brooks. We're going to have, and that's going to be moderated by Chirac Lofton.
Okay.
We're going to have
Excellent.
a celebration of the Strange New Worlds Subspace Rhapsody episode with the songwriters. Yeah, with the songwriters. Tom Holce, and forgive me, I might be butchering that pronunciation, Bolce, and Kay Hanley, as well as director Dermot Downs, moderated by Melissa Navia. I mentioned Paul Giamatti. We're also going to have a conversation with Walter Koenig. We're going to have a 25th anniversary Enterprise celebration only with the writers, because the actors, who wants to meet them? Let's see. We're going to have 3 famous Vulcans on to talk about being a Vulcan. Tim Russ, Gabriel Ruiz, and Robin Curtis. A panel in which we commemorate and remember and honor Gene and Majel with Eugene Roddenberry, Denise Crosby, Will Wheaton, Fred Bronson, who was one of the writers on Next Generation, and Ernie Over, who was Gene's personal assistant for many years.
Wow.
Robbie McNeil and Roxanne Dawson are together to talk about their amazing careers and how they went from actors to directors to producers. Whew. I'm probably forgetting a few things. That kind of hits, and that hits the highlights.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So 8
That's
hours, as well as interstitial films about the Hollywood Food Coalition that will introduce the work we do, and my co-host, the inimitable Bonnie Gordon. And we will intersperse the show with moments of buffoonery.
I'm so glad I don't have other plans that day.
Yay! Yay!
Well, John,
yes.
it was very nice to see that you're going to have Phyllis Strong on the show.
Yes.
We had Phyllis on our show one time. She's a real joy. And one of the questions that if I was there to pose to her is, since she was there at the beginning of Enterprise, where did the name of Phlox come from? Because I found something this weekend that caught my eye, a picture of a flower called a spreading phlox.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is a flower.
And I'm wondering, is that where the names come from? How do the writers come up with the characters' names? And it's such a unique name, Phlox, that was they inspired by that?
I know, and it leads the spin-off that I have been proposing for years is Phlox's Foxes, where like Charlie's Angels, Phlox has a bevy of beautiful intergalactic spies, and he's trying to run herd on them, and then if you wanted to get really dark, it could be Fox's Poxes.
Foxes.
Where they end up having Poxes, and they're all over the universe, and they're pox-ridden, and he's got to go, chase them down, find them all, and they never listened to any of my notions. All my great ideas went for naught. I'm going to drop in, actually, when the writers are convened and give them a piece of my mind. It's
very good.
Hey, how come?
Wasn't there a Phil Phlox show you wanted to do?
There were so many shows I wanted to do. You let Bob Picardo sing goddamn opera and me.
And he's still singing opera, too.
They used to have shrubbery outside their offices, and Bob Picardo would hide in the shrubbery and spring out at them when they were walking out to lunch. And by the time I was there, they'd taken all the shrubbery out, so there was no place for us to hide.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like an absolutely fantastic lineup and some very interesting topics, too. So make sure everybody checks that out on March the 28th. And it's like an online Trek convention, only better, if it can be better.
You don't have to wear pants, as I say every year.
Yes,
to me, this is a convention without pants. When you think about what you have to do when you go to a convention, first you got to pay for the convention. You got to pay for the flights. You got to pay for the hotel. You got to pay for the food. Food's not even any good. You're probably going to have a bad hangover. It's entirely possible that you might get sick on yourself. I mean, this happens at conventions all the time. This doesn't offer any of those detrimental things. It's just pure, unalloyed joy, all the things you want in a convention, and you don't have to wear pants. So to make up for the fact that you're getting this wonderful convention without pants, we ask you to contribute to the Hollywood Food Coalition, and that's the other part.
I think you're right, John. If they would just spend the money they would on a signature and give that to the Hollywood Food Coalition, you'd be doing pretty good.
Absolutely. And although we are based in Los Angeles, and I do understand that people have a certain tentativeness about donating to a regional charity, anywhere virtue is done in the world, the people who are doing it should be rewarded and encouraged for the work they do. And I like to think that the Hollywood Food Coalition also, in setting templates forward that talk about how community service can metastasize as groups and organizations grow together around food as a knitting component, if you will. We have a lot to show and teach other organizations around the country who work in a similar fashion. So I like to think that we have meaningfulness above and beyond our geography.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just spreading the kind of knowledge. I know before I had met you and before I knew about the Hollywood Food Coalition and things, my charity donations were very much focused on literacy. And I've kind of, it's basically opened my eyes to broadening, reading, because I've always felt, reading is important. Reading is you can't do anything meaningful if you don't read. But, if you aren't fed, you need that, the kind of that step back too. So it's made me mindful and got me to look at what my local food banks look like. And we have a community kitchen or a community fridge that gets stocked. And
that's great.
I've been able to do stuff like that. And look for those opportunities. So it's meaningful beyond.
Yeah, and I'll let you get back to the questions, the probing questions about the difference between a roadway and highway. But one last thought, which is, 1 in 5 American kids is food insecure, which doesn't mean that they're going hungry, but it does mean that they are not sure when they wake up in the morning what they're going to eat, when they're going to eat, how much they're going to eat, whether they'll eat healthy food, whether they'll eat in a safe and healthy environment, in the richest country in the history of the world. And it is a tragedy, but it is one that we ultimately, at an age in which, unfortunately, the people who are leading our federal government are abdicating their responsibilities to us as citizens, we have to look at our own communities and figure out how we can strengthen and build them from within. So one, the Food Coalition, I think, is a wonderful example of how that works on the ground. But two, I think for me, the work of Trek Talks and the work of Star Trek generally, and Trektivism, which is another adjunct of Trek Talks, is all about encouraging people to figure out what is their own activist bliss, their volunteer bliss. How can you give back to your own community? What is going to animate you? Be it literacy, teaching kids, going into hospitals, finding senior citizens who are lonely, cleaning up parks, working with food insecurity, working with refugees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Our world calls for us, and I think that's a lot of what Trek Talks is about in response to what Trek is about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So watch it, be inspired, and do something. Give to the Hollywood Food Coalition, but also let it inspire you to give to your local food banks like Adeena suggested, and let it inspire you to activate yourself and others around it too.
And I say that with all due respect and gratitude, because I have found it throughout the years as a volunteer that most people do. Most people do. It's what Star Trek is about. It's rooted in this real understanding that most people have the impulse and are acting on it in their way. Yeah. It's just about, maybe seeing if you can kind of throw your elbows out a little bit more sometimes, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Well, John, we have another, I think you call it probing question.
Probing.
I don't know how probing this is.
Probe me. Probe me.
Wait. Slow down.
So I am, settle down over there, Steve. It's okay. So I am a recent inductee into the Tea Drinking Society. I just started drinking tea is what I'm trying to say. And we have a question from someone that says, what type of tea would you recommend? Again, this is an anonymous. What is up? Why would you submit anonymously to a podcast? I would want my name associated with it. I don't know. I just.
It might be Patrick Stewart. We don't know.
They're probably well off because I am more likely to make fun of tea drinkers, and so maybe they intuited that I have nothing good to say about tea.
What do you have to say about tea?
Poor man's coffee. Yes, no, that was I lived in London for a while back in the day before they recognized coffee as an actual beverage. And it was a bane of my existence. It was like, this is pre-Starbucks. It was like, what? Huh. I don't want, this is just water with some, like a bag of, I don't know what it is. No.
Yeah.
Coffee. Coffee.
John, some show we recently watched, there was a line that said, tea is water that makes you thirsty.
Was that in Ted Lasso?
No, it was something else. I don't know what I can't remember what, but it was a great
bad
line.
Enough, they put milk and lemon into it, which
that is weird.
I don't understand.
Why would milk and lemon ever be paired together in any way? I don't get that.
I just want to say, for clarification, I drink about 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day. Tea is like twice or 2-3 times a week in the evening.
Oh, I see. So
I'm feeling very sheepish now, Johon.
You've in addition to coffee, you've added tea.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. I've heard of people supplanting coffee with tea, but I've never heard of people recklessly throwing tea into the pie.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to be cultured. I don't know.
Do you enjoy the tea drinking, or is it more sort of are you? I know you're a pastor. This isn't some sort of like putting yourself on a cross.
No. Trust me, it is not have anything to do with that. It is.
All right.
It is. My wife suggested it. She's She's also a coffee drinker. We both just like tea in the evening, I guess. So.
Yeah, that's
tea in the
what I've got
evening,
going on.
I drink.
tea.
See, I'm
in the evening. Yep.
With coffee, I'm like you. I'm the opposite. Where it's like I'll have my coffee on my Wednesdays and my Fridays when I work from home.
What?
But usually during the day, I'll
Not
have
every
tea.
day.
What?
Not every day. It's just like it's a nice
What do
ritual
you-
where I get to relax.
I sure wouldn't want to be
Sit in
around
my
you on
kitchen.
Thursday, is all I can say. Good heavens.
What do you do on the other days? Do you just
Sometimes I'll
not
drink tea.
live your life?
Um,
I'll drink my tea sometimes. Sometimes I'll drink tea
let-
if I'm like
of
hungry.
course,
But I'm like, I don't
just
want to eat right now. I'm at work.
let 100 flowers bloom, as Mao said. And then an asterisk at the bottom, except tea.
There's so many great things. You can have ginger tea. You can have orange pico. You can have chai tea, which is really good.
Oh,
You can have Earl Grey.
they've named it very well. The tea makers have been very clever to try and lure you into thinking there's something worthwhile about the beverage by putting some kind of fancy name in front of it. Orange Pico tea sounds
It's
really good until you drink it, at which point you think, no, it's just tea.
It is tea.
You know
I like
what?
tea.
I have a moment of clarity right here, right now.
Oh, my
as,
gosh.
As you guys have been going back and forth, and as I admitted a very personal thing about my recent tea drinking, I know the origin of my tea drinking, actually. It started with the very first episode of this podcast. I decided, I was in the grocery store. We were going to talk about, I think Star Trek Generations was our first topic in our first episode ever 4 years ago. And my wife was getting her tea. And I said, you know what? I have always wanted to say tea, Earl Grey, hot, just like Patrick Stewart did. And so there was some Earl Grey tea there, caffeine free, of course. And that was my first cup of tea that got me on this. So occasionally for our podcast, I'll have Earl Grey tea. And now I'm branching off.
If Jean-Luc Picard were to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, would you jump off the Golden Gate Bridge?
Okay, let's get personal. How do you feel about iced tea?
I don't know.
I'm just
Drank
saying.
iced tea for 4 years.
Clearly, you did this to curry favor with your wife, and I can't. I understand that. That is not a bad move. That's why I wear underwear. The wife said, "I think you should wear underwear." So fine.
Yeah. And then my wife got me into tea, so it's always because of a woman.
It's yeah. We're weak that way.
We are indeed.
Noted.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next question.
Coffee.
Adeena
Just
is
coffee.
busily scribbling through this entire
Yes,
conversation.
I am.
Yeah.
This is the last question that got submitted anonymously again at the convention this weekend.
Weird.
So, John, what would be
You're
the
so
most
stuck on
heart?
this.
What?
I said
just
weird.
Brian is so stuck
I just don't
on this
understand the
anonymous thing.
anonymous question.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Well, especially because I was at the table soliciting people to say, "Hey, you want to ask a question?" So I think I can picture the people who wrote some of the questions.
Well, the thing is that none of these questions are like, so I'm living with a man and it turns out that I really don't like him, but I like his best friend, Charlie. And I'm wondering, I can understand why that would be anonymous. But
right, and those are the
role
kinds of
switch.
questions I was expecting.
yeah, but none of these other questions seem to really,
I know.
they don't need to be cloaked in anonymity. Surprise me. What's this one?
Okay. What would be the most heartwarming moment you've had with a fan, charity, enterprise, just heartwarming moment related to your time doing these things?
Oh, heartwarming. Boy, the whole damn thing's been pretty heartwarming. It's been 20-some years of my life, and it's real all joshing aside, it's been a great joy to meet so many people. I'd be hard pressed to come up with any stinkers. Some people are shyer than others, but I have very warm memories. I don't know. This may not be heartwarming, although I have an odd heart and it's warmed in odd ways. In London, we went, my wife and I, to a pub after a night at the convention. And, they closed the pubs fairly early in England. I can't remember what time, but, what seemed to me to be ridiculously early. I was younger then and was prepared to stay out drinking much longer than I am now. And they had something in London called a lock-in, where if everybody in the pub at the time says we're going to lock the doors and not let anybody else in, we turn it into a private party. We can stay here as long as we want. And we all agreed. So it was like 20 fans and the publican, and we all said, yeah, let's turn it into a lock-in, and we stayed till 6 a.m. And
Wow.
it might not have been heartwarming. It was liver damaging, but it was an absolutely
You picked some
lovely
major
evening
organ.
with 20 people who I wouldn't recognize today. I could run over them on the street. I would have no idea who they were. But in that moment, I remember thinking, I love my job.
Mm,
Nice.
That's
Nice.
I
great.
love it.
That's
That's
cool.
a great story.
My wife was convinced that one of the young women who was being, now I'm going to ruin this story by overtelling, was being hit on by one of the guys at the lock-in, and she had to intervene and kind of make sure that the woman was protected and that the young man knew he was a little bit out of bounds, which I watched from across the room, and I don't know if I found it heartwarming. I found it sort of like, oh, Bonnie, oh, you just can't relax and have a good time, can you?
Mother
Well,
instinct.
I have a question submitted by someone who is not anonymous.
Ooh.
His name is Todd Van Gorder. He's a friend of mine, actually. Big fan of the Big Sci-Fi. Big fan of Star Trek in general, and I've actually conventioned with him. We met William Shatner together. And here is his question. He says, how does having a main role in a TV series like Enterprise or The Nine, and my phone just, there we go, compare to having a significant role in a movie like Red Line or Out of Time? What's the experience like? Do they treat you differently? Are there more perks on one versus the other? What's your preference, movie versus TV series? And that's more than one question, Todd. What in the world?
It's a
See,
compound
that's why
question.
you.
It's a
That's why you
compound
don't put
question.
your
I like
name on
that.
there.
Will you marry
Not
me?
everybody
Or if
loves
not,
Todd.
maybe we could just live together for a significant period of time. Or failing that, maybe we could just have sex. Say, but not, maybe more than once or twice a week, so that we're more of a couple. But we're not. What do you think? I get it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Redline was made for $9, so there were no perks on Redline. I'm always intrigued by the movies and TV shows that people pluck from my biography. If he saw Redline, I'm impressed. I haven't even seen Redline. First and foremost, it is the difference between a deep familial experience, because when you're on a show, it's extending over the arc of, if you're lucky, some years, and even if you're unlucky and it's only 13 episodes, at least 4 or 5 months. Unless you're the star of a movie, the likelihood is that you're not going to be there for that long, and you're not going to get to know everybody really well. So there's just a deeper level of intimacy that comes from being on a television show. It is the difference as well between when you're doing an episodic and you're playing a character. You're working with 40-minute scripts, and they'll shoot them out of sequence, but you know the character, and it's not like you're shooting a 2 or 2.5 hour long movie where you're trying to create a character and you're shooting it out of sequence, and you could be shooting things that represent the end and the beginning in consecutive days. There are technical challenges to shooting a movie to try and keep a sense in your head of the performance, consequently, and the integrity of the performance, that are a little more intricate and demanding than when you work on a television show.
Interesting.
Okay.
Did you mention which you actually prefer?
Yeah, it's apples and oranges, I mean, it really depends upon the show. I loved doing Enterprise. I loved doing The Nine. I have been on other series where I wasn't as wild about them. Movies, again, very different. It depends upon the movie. It depends upon so many factors, so many variables come into play. The director, the cast members. Um, I every single thing you do is so so unique. It's almost impossible to draw any firm conclusions. I'll say this: what always makes a difference is the quality of the number one, the star. If the star is warm and outgoing and personable and sets a good tone, you're going to feel okay. If you feel like you're working with somebody who is either guarded or, aggressively, demanding of their perks and their status, you kind of can't help but feel a little bit like you're walking on eggshells. I'm a working character actor, so it's not as if anybody hosannas when I walk on the set. So you're taking the temperature of the room always, and you know when you're on a set where the temperature is warm, and you know when it's chilly.
Okay.
I think that goes for any work environment. It feels very familiar.
Yeah.
Except your work environment isn't going to change next Thursday. And
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Hopefully not. There's a little more stability there. Well, okay. With that, is there anything else that you think we should know about Trek Talks 5?
no, I think I've covered the waterfront. I mean, it is first and foremost designed to be fun. So, we've touched on the charity, which I adore, and the panels. Some of them are doubtless going to be a little more. The one that Picardo hosts about, discussing critical care will doubtless be very interesting and about the nature of how medical care is provided or not provided in this country. But many of them are going to be rollicking. Tawny and Gates, I can't wait to hear Tawny.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. I really want to just give people permission to come to have fun. And it's 8 hours, so you can come and go. And if you can't make it, it survives. Watch it on YouTube. And you can also donate afterwards if you don't get to watch it on the day. And the last thing I'd say, obviously times are tight. This is a crazy world we're living in. If it's not possible to make a donation, you could do us a huge solid by sharing the story, by megaphoning it out. And I know you guys have the particulars that you'll share. Use your socials, even on the day if you're watching it and you're digging it. Just, take some time to, hey, guess what I'm watching? You got to come check this out.
Absolutely.
Building the audience.
Absolutely.
This is really the key,
Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all of this evening. I feel like maybe we've all gotten just a little bit wiser, maybe.
I think I've pretty much warned you off tea. I think that's I've done nothing else here.
No,
certainly.
I say still,
some
if you
people.
enjoy tea, enjoy your tea. It's
All right,
okay.
I'm somewhere
Captain
out there. Some tea
Archer like iced
manufacturer is
tea.
watching this and going, "I hate him. I hate him. I hate his oeuvre. I hate everything about him."
Oeuvre, I like that. It's good use of the
We're
word
not going to
oeuvre.
get their sponsorship.
No, we're not going to get. I know that's what my development people are saying. We were going after Lipton. You've screwed it up.
Good. Okay. So maybe not so much wiser, but at least we've definitely been entertained this evening.
All right.
Definitely.
Yes. And I do want to thank to all of the listeners who did submit questions, and we do appreciate it, even if you didn't always tell us your names.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, but they still were a combination of they were thoughtful and funny, a little bit chaotic, but this is pretty much what we were hoping for. So thank you. Now, if you enjoyed this and you want more of John Billingsley using his powers for good, be sure to check out Trek Talks 5. It's going to be that marathon Star Trek live stream bringing together actors, fans, creators from across the franchise, all in support of a very meaningful cause. And you can find all the details at trektalks.net, which we'll put also in the show notes. And of course, if you want more episodes like this, more conversations, and more science fiction goodness, follow the Big Sci Fi Podcast wherever you listen. Until next time, don't panic and live long and prosper. Oh, and P.S., Denobulan medical advice remains unofficial. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Big Sci Fi Podcast. We're a proud part of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, and you can listen to more of our over 150 episodes at trekgeeks.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel now. Until next time, live long and prosper.